Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is H. Adam Harris. I'm the Artistic and Audience Engagement Associate here at South Coast Repertory. And on behalf of festival co-directors Kim Martin Cotton and Andy Knight, welcome to the Playwrights Panel of the 27th Annual Pacific Playwrights Festival. Yeah! Turning up for Playwrights, woo! Okay. South Coast Repertory, founded by Martin Benson and David Ems, has always focused on new work. Under the leadership team of Managing Director Suzanne Appel and Artistic Director David Ivers, that commitment is stronger than ever. Via the lab at SCR, that's what we call our new play development program, we've got over 50 commissions in process at this moment. Each year we host multiple development workshops and read as much as we can, searching for stories that feel unique, timely, intimate, and epic, personal, and world-breaking. All words that can describe the work seen in this year's festival. Hopefully you've seen some of that incredible work. We offer our heartfelt thanks to our honorary producers and foundations for their generous support of this year's festival. And we thank each of you for joining us this morning, whether you are here in the theater or thanks to our partners at HowlRound, watching from home, or the future. We are glad you are here. Today we chat with our PPF playwrights. We've got a total of 60 minutes for this panel. For the first half of our time together, I have some questions for them. Some of the questions will be specific to a few people. Some will be open to anyone to answer. And of course, any of them can pass if they choose. After that, we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. Feel free to write down a question that comes up for you as we chat. Now, to the playwrights. First up, I'd love to have you introduce yourselves, and I've also asked them to share a non-theater related artist or art form that inspires them. All right? So that's their opening prompt. We'll start and work our way down.
Hi, I'm Keiko Green. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the playwright for You Are Cordially Invited to the End of the World, which closed last night, yay. And I think my artist that I'm gonna name right now is, I'm really into like Brit rock.
Oh.
So I would say like the Kinks. Because I think that they're just they have like a sense of humor while also kind of, I don't know, inspiring writing for some reason. The Kinks, yeah.
All right.
Hi everyone, I'm Jose Sebastian Alberdi. I wrote Rachel Nevada, he, him pronouns, and I'm really inspired by like modern dance sometimes, and I think like a choreographer I really love right now is Faye Driscoll. I think she's doing really amazing, just like messy, exciting work. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Talene Monahon. I wrote Eat Me. My pronouns are she, her. And I feel like it's such a boring answer, but I'm a big bookworm. And this year I discovered the author Mary Gateskill, who's just so amazing. And I've just been on a huge kick with her, and also her Substack, which I would recommend.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Noa Gardner. I wrote The Staircase. I would say my non-theater artist, the honest answer is Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yes.
I love it. You just got right to it, Noah.
Yeah.
I felt that watching your play. Good morning. I'm Kate Cortesi. Please enjoy my morning after a party voice.
Yay.
It's about 2 octaves lower than normal. My pronouns are she, her, and I grew up playing the violin, so I'm really inspired by sonata form, symphony form. I think a lot about different parts of my play as the allegro or the andante or the adagio, and I think a lot about varying pace and AABA, and when you repeat something but it feels different because of what came in between the first time you heard it and the second. So yeah, I mean, I love, the Bach, Beethoven, I played all of those things, but it's the form itself that I think I really steal from as much as possible.
I love that. Today's panel is missing Jake Brasch, who is in rehearsal preparing for the reading of Trip Around the Sun that takes place after the panel, and JuCoby Johnson, who wrote The Red Man, departed the festival a bit earlier for a family matter. But can we give these playwrights a round of applause? When I was a young artist, I spent hours listening to this interview series called Masters of the Stage. Anybody? Okay, yeah. Masters of the Stage, where the interviewer would chat with industry folk about their careers and their work. And in one episode with Andre DeShields, he talked about the root of the word awesome. And he said the root of the word awesome is awe, but most people didn't really understand what the root of the word awe was. And it is the feeling of wonder and terror, but experiencing it at the exact same time. So to be in awe of something is to be experiencing wonder and terror at the same time. And that has always stayed with me since I was 18, 19 years old. As creatives, we spend a lot of time feeling terror in our work. But I worry that we don't get to spend too much time feeling wonder. And often on panels or interviews, including those I listened to so long ago, most folks focus on their failures, on their moments of terror. So I'd like us to start boldly this morning. Will you name a theatrical moment, a line, a character, or an idea in your work that fills you with wonder, where you heard it, looked at it, wrote it, and said, yeah, I'm cooking with grease. Where in the spirit of Niecy Nash, you said, I want to thank me for believing in me and doing what they said I could not do. Now, it takes some courage. We're going to start off boldly. A moment in your work that fills you with wonder. I'm the one who asked, so it's okay. No one's going to blame you if you celebrate yourself. This is what we call a dramatic pause, and it's always welcome in conversation. Anyone can go.
I'll start boldly. Yesterday, right here at South Coast Rep, there's a character in my play who doesn't talk for about 2/3 of the play. And when she speaks for the first time, she speaks in the voice of a soap opera character. And Vico, the actor playing that role, just crushed it. And it was, I was like, that was good. That was good.
What'd you feel?
I felt like, oh, that worked. You know what I mean? It wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I've written it and rewritten it a million times. So it's like sometimes things just don't go according to plan, and things that you think are exciting turn out not to be, or things that you didn't think were exciting turn out to be, you know? So it's just when the thing you were trying to set up happens, it's like, yeah, that worked.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I can go. I watching our show last night for the first time in like a couple weeks. There's this moment in the play where we start to, like, the set starts to disappear. It starts getting pulled off, and then there's this one moment that we were. It's not something I wrote, to be honest with you, but when we were in tech, like we were trying to figure out how the last pieces of like the hospital scene would get taken off, and so we were originally like gonna drop the Austrian curtain again and like hide everyone, and then the actor was just standing there, and then the director and I were like in deep conversation. We were like, why don't we just watch them take it off, you know? And then like the music that we had chosen was already so beautiful. And watching the play last night, it was my favorite part of the play, was watching the crew just slowly take off this part of the set that felt like so important, and to just watch them like to see the manual labor of like humans taking this off, and just watching our lead actor have to like watch that happen, it filled me with absolute wonder.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have two, which is the beginning and ending of the staircase, because it starts with a monologue with the mom, and she gives this Adam and Eve story, but it's in her own voice, in her own dialect, and so like I had to start the play in the beginning with that mythology of Adam and Eve, and then the epilogue, like seeing it with the just the way it's framed, how she is framed. It was exciting to see her full arc, and seemed poignant to start with her and end with her, because she is the soul of the piece, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Talene, Sebastian, any moments of wonder?
You go.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever I work on Rachel, I've been working on it for a really long time now, and these characters like very much like live in my head all the time. And so for me, like the wonder of it is honestly just like watching actors embody them and thinking about like I wrote these characters because I wanted to meet them, and then we bring actors into the room and I get to meet it through them, but at the same time, as a playwright, I know that like I wrote everything that they're doing. So this like weird thing of like, I wish I could meet these people, and the only way I can meet them is sort of through my own brain, through these actors. And there's something that always like fills me with wonder about that when I'm working on one of my plays.
Yeah, I had a real moment this week. I wrote Eat Me like, God, I think it was like a little over a year ago, and I wrote it pretty quickly, and then felt like I'd sort of blacked it out, and then was so delighted to come to this festival, but hadn't looked at the play again. Like I was sort of had forgotten what I wrote. And the play is about a lot of things, but it starts out with like a long monologue about losing a pet, and there's a lot in it about like living with animals. And our dog is dying. My boyfriend and I, our dog, we found out that she was dying a few months ago, and she really took a turn the week before I came here, and it was so strange to like open up this play again and feel like I was like, I don't know why I was writing about that, because all our animals were like healthy when I was writing the play, but it felt like the right time to be working on the play and processing it, and it felt like a nice, I also had a moment where Angie Bird, who's in our play, who's so wonderful, she said this thing that was, I thought, very profound about owning an animal or owning a pet, where she was like, getting a pet is you're signing up for the experience of like watching this creature's death. Yeah. Like you're inviting that death into your home. And I was thinking about this just, you know, with a lot of our plays closing or just having these short runs, and I was like, it's sort of like theater is kind of like being a theater artist specifically is like signing up for an art form where you're gonna like watch everything you make die like immediately, like you're watching this like so anyways, I've been sort of feeling a lot of wonder thinking about death this week.
We love it.
Yeah.
We love it. It's like constantly dying, and you go and you create these relationships with people, and if you're lucky enough, you're in the room, you watch the magic, and then it's over, and then you secretly hope for another chance. Yeah,
but it's gonna be different.
Yeah.
And like, and you know, it's like, well, people can read our plays, but it's not the same thing. You know, this thing that Keiko just described from her play, that's like part of this very specific experience that has like an expiration date.
yeah. Keiko,
Talene, I'm so shook by
go
what
ahead.
you just said. I have to leave this panel.
No, stay.
I'm like not ready for that truth at 9:30 in the morning. Like, that's a wrap on Kate. Thank you.
Yay. Keiko, the play you wrote was inspired by a moment in your life back in 2020, and you've developed and worked on it for the past couple of years. What has struck you the most about the audience's response to it?
I've expected we have a lot of people that come up afterwards and talk about their relationship to like, you know, someone who passed, or, you know, and that part is actually, you know, I'm like always ready to receive that. And that part has been kind of expected. What was surprising was afterwards, people coming up and talking to us who were like, you know, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness like 2 months ago. And I think what was so shocking about it was that what struck them about the play was like, they said, a lot of them were like, thank you for like telling me I'm not dead yet, you know, because the play is so much about, if you watched Cordially Invited, it was so much about like it's very intentional that the character that's dying is actually the most activated and has the most purpose. And the whole point of the play, really, or part of the point of the play, is like to walk away being like, or to watch this family unit and being like, what are they gonna do when the life of the family disappears, you know? And so it was actually like really important for us to show that it's not a performance of someone like dying. It's actually a performance of someone like living to their fullest until the very, very end. Yeah. And I'm glad that reached those right people.
Yeah. Sebastian, my first question, have you been to Rachel, Nevada?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness. It's a very specific place that we learn about, and I'm just curious, how does place impact your writing? What essence do you hope to capture for a theatrical audience in a different place? I'm thinking about Bog Friends, which we did a workshop of. You know, that place, the environment becomes so important, and I'm just curious, how do you try to capture environment? What do you think about?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Something that I never really set out to do or really write about has become something that I keep finding in my work. Like you mentioned Bog Friends, which is a play set outside in a bog and also a museum. And then Rachel, Nevada, which is also this play that you spend a lot of time outdoors in, of watching the sky and sort of being surrounded by nature. And I think for me, I really love set design. I think it's really an exciting part of our medium, and I love that sense. Speaking about wonder, I love walking into a theater and being like, wait, where am I? What is the space? So I think for me, when I write plays, I think about what is a space that would be really just interesting to have inside of a theater, and I think having outside be inside is always very interesting. And I think for Rachel, it really is, I don't know, I'm from San Diego originally, and spending time in the desert, on trips and stuff, there really is no way of sort of describing the awe that you feel being outside, being really tiny under the night sky, and I think that that's something that Rachel is trying to capture, and that's why I said it there, and also because it's a town of 48 people, what's going on here, and you can sort of imagine the loneliness of it, and also if people come here, maybe there is a chance to find quick connection, just because you're I haven't gotten to talk to someone my age for a really long time, which is what we sort of see with Terry. So.
I love that. We're going to keep going, but I want to just pull out something you just talked about, which is you're I love set design. You all are playwrights. You give us the base, and then you invite collaborators, into the room. You've been working with directors and dramaturgs this week, in addition to the actors. Just for some of our PPF folks and then our folks who had productions here, can you just talk to me a little bit about what makes a great collaborator for you? Anyone can go.
It has something to do with, as the playwright, you think you know it, but then the collaborator shows you the thing that you don't see, and pulling those threads out and showcasing that. I'm trying to think of an example, but there are, I think, moments in the staircase where I wrote a certain way, and then staging it or seeing it, the chandelier is a big moment, and I just wrote, it's this big on a page, and the hassle that someone has to go buy a chandelier, it has to fit through the door. There's a quick change before that, so someone has to, it's a big thing just for this one punchline joke of where did that come from? The setup is, but for me, it's where the play, it's a big launch for the play at that moment. So collaborators, yeah, it's giving you what you wrote, but being mindful of who's going to be on your team, because I feel like plays should speak to the lights, they should speak to the set, they should speak to costumes, because they want to tell their own stories when they come to when they collaborate on your play. They have their own mark that they want to put on it, and it's not about what you want after a certain point. It's about bringing in all the best ideas and then going from there,
Great. Anybody else on collaboration?
Yeah, I think that I really pride myself on having rooms that are just so much fun, and I will say that like that doesn't mean that the work can't be excellent. It's like both things. It's almost like because we can be so joyful, the work can then push forward to something that I think that we usually might not be able to. And there was one of the actors in my play, Raphael Goldstein, who for some reason I was only going to credit as playing the Melomies, but he played a bunch of other roles. But him in that rat suit was just a joy. But he described someone that he didn't care for very much one time as, we were like, what don't you like about him? And he was like, he lacks curiosity. You know, and I think that's the first thing that came to mind right now is like, yes, I love to work with collaborators that just foster curiosity, because that inherently means that they're open-minded, and that inherently means that they're like they're like, what are you? What I just saw you wanting to say something. What is that? You know, and so it ends up being like, the best rooms in the world to me are the ones where we're like all on our feet, being like, okay, but what if, you know, and we're all kind of problem solving together.
Excellent. Anybody else?
I think my favorite collaborators are funny, and they think I'm funny.
Yes.
It's really important. But actually, Keiko, I was reaching towards something you were saying, which is like, most plays, not all of them, but most plays start with a script, and by the time you bring in a collaborator, there's often a lot of work that's been done on the page and in the mind of the playwright. And you know, my favorite collaborators, whether they're from actors to designers, certainly directors, they kind of live in the question, what is it? Like, and in a way I know, and in a way I don't. And it's your curiosity thing. And you know, I have my tools, and some of them I know how to wield quite well, but there's a lot of tools of the theater that I could not be less adept at. And so when I have other people who are so skilled at their tools, and so we're all sort of looking at and asking about the what together, but someone is playing and I do think that a good play summons the lights and it summons the set, but also I don't totally understand how to do that, you know, like, and so when someone comes with their art form, and you know, I don't know how an actor makes a choice or what goes on inside them to make the thing come outside that feels exactly like that character coming to life or something. And so, yeah, that when we're all aiming at the same thing and we take a moment to understand what we're aiming at together, and then to watch these other virtuosos, you know, come in with their stuff. I mean, it's kind of that's wonder. That wonder happens all the time. And that's really one of the best drugs about being a playwright. That's why we keep coming back to this, you know, very challenging life, because of those moments with our peers and our friends.
I love that. Cool. We'll move forward here. Talene, you spoke a little bit about Eat Me. It's a play that touches on the cravings of the flesh, but also the needs of the heart and flesh and blood, which I really was just like, it just struck me. It struck me continually, flesh and blood. And I'm just curious, where did it come from you? You talked a little bit about what it was like to start working on it right now, but what were you thinking? What were you channeling a year ago, as you said, and then you blocked it out, you know? Just curious.
I think, I have such a hard time talking about this play. I was really curious about if I could write a play about eating disorders, and it felt like a trap to do that, and I was curious about, it felt like a trap because I feel like narratives that I've seen about eating disorders in media with actors, it becomes like about the actors' bodies, and weirdly like it invites the audience to like really obsess over and examine the actors' bodies, and that felt like problematic to me and cyclical, but I was also like, it sort of feels like everyone has an eating disorder, and how do we talk about it? And then I happened onto this very rare form of eating disorder called gourmand syndrome, which is maybe not even real, but there have been several documented cases of people who become fixated on gourmet food. And I felt like that was a sort of interesting, slightly kind of larger than life mythical way into looking at like food and obsession. Yeah, that's, I guess, what my jumping off point was. And I was really inspired by Kafka, by Metamorphosis, when he turns into the cockroach, and also by this other Kafka short story called The Hunger Artist. And I think those things informed what I was thinking about too.
And such descriptive language about food. I was just like, oh my goodness.
Oh, I gotta give a shout out to my good friend from college, Priya Krishna, is an amazing food writer. Currently, the New York Times restaurant critic.
Okay.
And she did a hard pass on the script where she really went through, because I was like, I don't really actually know a lot about gourmet food. I'm sort of like making this up and like looking at some menus.
Yeah.
And she like went through everything
Oh.
and corrected me and made suggestions.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
she's,
friend.
yeah, I really gotta shout her out. She's also an amazing food writer. I would check out her
Come
books.
on, collaboration. Noa, in the staircase, you mentioned this. A mother and son share origin stories with each other. And for them, they are sacred. But for many in the audience, they're new. And I'm just curious, what drew you to include these versions of these actual myths or folklores?
I think in the original concept, I wanted to, because I was in school, like undergraduate. I went back to get a second undergraduate degree at the University of Hawaii for Hawaiian language and Hawaiian studies, and it was there that I learned so much more about our culture, the mythology, the music, the language, and part of what came out of the studies is a lot of these mythologies. I found parallels to Hercules in Kamapua'a. Pele and Hiaka, and that story in the play is a Eurydice. There's a lot of allusions. Adam and Eve and Papa and Wakea. So I wanted to showcase those myths and, sort of tell people there's not one story. We have our own stories. And what's funny about this play is that these stories are not for you. They're for us. And so you guys got to peek in. But whether the stories mean anything to you at all, they mean the world to us. So I hope that, is the takeaway, and it's important for those stories that don't get talked about. People know Pele. The mythology of Pele is this big, and people know fire goddess. That's all they know. But she has sisters, it's this epic thing. And Papa and Wakea, and the mythology of Earth Mother, Earth Mother, Sky Father, all those things. And how, we have our own mythology and creation story that dictates a lot of how we view the world.
Yeah.
Indigenous people have a relationship to the land, in part because I feel like our creationist stories tell us to do so. We are of the earth. The Haloa is our older sibling. So in an older, younger sibling, there is a relationship and a duty to honor your siblings in that way, and they honor you and they feed you. So that relationship needs to be nurtured. In Adam and Eve, God tells man, you have dominion over this. It's yours. Do whatever you want with it. To me, that would dictate a worldview of go and do whatever you want with the land. It's ours. It's here for my benefit only. That's not right. I mean, it's a story that you can subscribe to or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We the myth and what we tell ourselves is very often at the root of a lot of our belief. I love one of the things that you said there, though, about sometimes a play isn't for you. And you're like, but I came to see it, and it's like, yes, congratulations. How amazing. We've done plays. Sometimes we've had some bilingual productions here, and you wouldn't believe the number of people who come and they go, I didn't understand half of the play, and I go, congratulations. This idea that sometimes we write plays for people to witness, but sometimes those plays have unique jokes or things in them that you will never get. And that's okay. That's a part of being in the public forum in a way, which I really appreciate there. Kate, You've got some quotes at the top of your play, but the one I'm really curious about today for 10 grand is from Quentin Tarantino. And you said, or Quentin says, you know, real life violence is real life violence. Movies are movies. What connective tissue is found between that quote and your play?
Well, conveniently, that kind of goes off of what Noah was just saying, which is about, I think this quote of Tarantino's is attempting to sever the connection between the stories we tell and the lives we lead. And so it gives a pass to brutal masculinity-fueled violence in his movies, because he's saying it's, you know, movies are one thing, real life is another. And I'm not responsible for the connection between those things. Now, I'm not trying to put gun violence at the feet of Quentin Tarantino. You know, he's a byproduct of the culture. He is not the, you know, architect of it. But I am, you know, the stories we tell and to your point, the values embedded in those stories, we are either continuing to build the altar to those values, or we are dismantling them or challenging them. And so, you know, and I love a lot of violent movies, love them, you know. The Godfather is quoted heavily in my play, and it's really fun. And, you know, like a lot of people in the audience were like saying the lines along and enjoying it. But, you know, I think revering those kinds of stories and, you know, a lot of stories that, whether they do really well at the box office or whether we pile them on with awards, they are stories of male violent dominance. And we are continuing to maintain and worship at that altar, you know, and if we tell ourselves, oh, it's just a guilty pleasure or something else, like, you know, and then we're, you know, surprised when there is so much unnecessary, in my opinion, violent death happening in our country and in the world. And so that quote is part of a sort of constellation of ideas that I guess I'm asking the people who read that script or who get to work on it to think about the relationship between the stories we tell and the lives we lead, and investigate those consequences or be curious about them.
I'm seeing a lot of nods and a lot of moments of resonance with what Kate said. Anybody want to speak to that? Anything more? Any feeling of what you hope to do with those altars? Do you feel a responsibility or an urgency to address that, or do you just try to write what you feel? Love stumping them. It's my favorite.
It's an interesting question because I think first of all, I've just been nodding along because everybody's so smart. I'm just like, whoa. I think that we have a question, like we have a challenge to ourselves as writers, and I'm curious what everyone else thinks, like, because we don't always agree with our characters, actually. Like, it's important to put people on stage that I don't agree with, and kind of, and to me, it's like, you know, theater is such an empathy machine, and as a playwright, I'm like, I find it really exciting to kind of put someone whose point of view I don't actually agree with and try to empathize with them and make them like have a really good point, and put that on stage, and so I can be like, oh damn, you know, and also, and it's been interesting because I think there has been actually like a shift too. This is like not what Kate is saying, but kind of going off, like, we, you know, now when I'm teaching playwriting, I find like for some younger generations, they're like, they feel very resistant to representing someone that has an opposing point of view from them, because they feel like they're like it's validating them or something, and there is a big question of like, who do you give a voice to as a writer? And that's, I don't have an answer to that, but I do find the question always like really interesting of just like, you know, are we, if we can, like for me, the biggest, trap is like if I start writing a play where the whole time everyone's just like snapping along, going, I'm like, oh, I failed. You know, I just gave people exactly what they already think, and what's the point? You know, a little bit. Yeah, so it's always, yeah. So I think like exploring this, the way Kate's talking about, of just like, putting it out there, getting people to connect with it, and then kind of being like, twisting like the in front of the audience's eyes, like it's just like such a magic trick that you're talking
really
about.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
really, really exciting. Yeah.
I love it.
I think one of the best plays, sorry, Sebastian, I just want to jump into what Keiko just said. I think the theater is one of the best media to explore like moral confusion.
Yeah.
Because
People really don't like it though. Like I'm telling you, as a person who leads a lot of post-show conversations, like, okay, but what was the playwright saying?
Yeah.
Well, what did they mean? I'm like, I don't know, and that's okay.
well, and a play is not a social media post, and it's not an op-ed, and it's not a heart-to-heart with my best friend. You know, it is an exploration, and I think because it's quiet, because there are multiple points of view on stage, because the audience can't interrupt and argue. Like it's such active listening,
Yeah.
you know, for the duration of the play.
Yeah.
That we can explore a lot of ideas really thoroughly, and in a complex way, and in a poetic way, or you know, in a delightful way. And it's actually there aren't that many opportunities in the world to do that, you know. So sorry to jump in on you, Sebastian, but
No, it's okay. I was just gonna. you basically said what I was gonna say.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
I'm
like
so sorry.
I think like I think you can really tell like when you're watching a play that like you can kind of tell sometimes if the playwright already knew what they were gonna say about the play when they started writing it. And I think that those plays to me are just not interesting. Like when I write a play, the reason I continue working on it is because I'm still grappling with the questions in it. And I've had people come up to me this weekend being like, I took this away from your play and I'm not sure if that's right. And I'm like, no, it is. Like whatever you took away from it is correct. Like I write my plays so that they're a little murky, dream logic, like you're kind of trying to understand what's going on. And that to me is what I like in theater. I like leaving being like, this is what I took away from it. What did you take away from it? And then being like, that's really interesting. Let's have a conversation. Because I feel like so often I watch a play where I leave with the person I'm with and I'm like, that was good. And we don't say anything else about it, you know? And that to me, I don't know, like I totally agree. Like moral confusion and confusion in general isn't a bad thing, I promise.
Yeah.
Like,
Can I read a quote from Mary Gateskill's Substack on this?
Come on, Substack, let's go.
Talene, I thought you were just checking your Instagram.
No. Oh my God. No, I was just like, I have to pull up this quote. I think about it all the time.
Go ahead.
And I feel like it affirms what everyone is saying, which I so agree with. She wrote, "Fiction is most compelling when it has a strong element of moral ambiguity because it puts us into contact with a mystery of our existence. What I call the not of us, where good and evil are sometimes unpredictably mixed. This is for me the primary value of art, that it reminds us of this paradox and the need for humility before it."
I love that.
I know, it's such a good writer.
There's such a vulnerability to that moral ambiguity, and that vulnerability is always really interesting. In my facilitation work, I always talk to people about one of the most important things you can do when you're trying to create community is you break bread with one another. It's true in multiple cultures that we gather and we eat together. And one of the reasons we do that is because over the course of our day and the course of our life, you see a lot of different emotions on people's face. You see happiness and sadness and glee and despair. But one of the rare emotions that you rarely get to see in the public forum is that of pleasure. And the closest you start to see and access or witness someone's pleasure face is when you eat with them. And they take that bite and they go, Woo! And you all are sitting there and you just eating with each other. That's why you like going to brunch, okay? Because you be in there like, wow. And it creates community. It builds family. It builds connection. And so shifting to pleasure, Let's talk about sex, baby. Some of the most striking language, Talene and Sebastian specifically, in your play is about sex and sexuality and pleasure. What things do you consider when writing so honestly about desire, physical attraction, and sometimes the very act itself? Either one of you.
If you feel ready.
I mean, I have a very fraught relationship to sex. Like, to be honest, like I don't think Rachel Nevada is a play that is meant to just be like, oh wow, sex is so pleasurable and not complicated.
Yeah.
I think it's like very integral to Rachel is like we're obviously grappling with religion and your upbringing and stuff like that. And so I think sometimes people with my plays are like, he's just like a pervert who likes to write about sex and like wants to watch this happen. And like, okay, like there's other ways I can do that. I don't need to write a play to do that. But I think for me, like, I really am grappling with something. I think Rachel is a play about self-destructive tendencies. And I think that while sex can be a really beautiful thing, it can also be something that you reach for when you're really just not able to find the sort of comfort that you want in your life in a non-sexual way. So yeah, it's a play. Of all my plays, is it the most sex negative? Like maybe actually. Like I don't think it's wrong, and I won't share stories. Never mind. That's not right. Never mind. I think last thing I'll say, sorry, I'm rambling. The last thing about the Orville Sam scene is like, there are people who find that scene sexy, and I don't think they're wrong. And I also think that like, if you just find it sexy or you just find it horrifying, that there's something that is being missed in the sort of writing intention of it.
Yeah.
And it's very complicated, so. Yeah, I also have a stage direction that we didn't read that says like, please don't make this pornographic. So like, I promise if it ever gets produced, it won't be pornographic.
Yeah.
Wait. No. I'm like, I don't even know
What
to-
things do you consider when writing so honestly about desire, physical attraction, and sometimes the very act itself? Keiko was going to hop in there,
I was
though,
gonna
with you.
say Talena's stumped right now because in her stage direction she always writes, "Please make this pornographic."
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I think a thing that I consider, I mean, I really have to turn off the part of my brain that is like, my parents will maybe see this production someday. But, you know, but I guess I'm just, you know, I feel so fascinated by sex and by the way that we all relate to each other sexually, and I guess with Eat Me specifically, a thing that I was really thinking about was, I mean, certainly the relation, like, overlaps between desire for sex and desire for food, and these, like, urges and instincts that come from, like, this very mysterious part of us that sort of connects us to being animals, basically, even though we're, like, walking around with Starbucks cups, but, and I was also thinking about, like, how much of sex is about being attracted to yourself and your own body and how you see yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, you know, it's that Esther Perel thing of, like, when you have an affair, sometimes it's not actually with that other person, it's with, like, another idea of yourself and feeling attractive to yourself in that context. So that, I guess that just feels endlessly fascinating to me. And it was fun to write, though I felt like I was sexually harassing the actors all week. Whenever I gave line notes in the sex scene, I was like, yeah.
It takes great vulnerability, you know. Whenever I teach actors, I always say, you know, when you're trying to do chemistry on stage, you just follow the cardinal rule: everything you got, everything you want, I already have, you know. And so every line you say, anything you want, I got. Don't worry about it, you know. And it's, but it takes great vulnerability to get on stage and present those characters. We're gonna open it up to you all for some questions. I've got more questions for them, but I want to turn it over to you. The things you should know about asking questions with me, as I always say, we are here because you have curiosity, and your curiosity does require courage. It takes courage to raise your hand and ask the question. Your curiosity is welcome in this space, but do know your curiosity could be met with challenge, but always with compassion. We do not have to answer the question. We may push back against the question, and that's all right, because it's the public forum, and we're really thinking about how we take care of community, all right? I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and if you do have a question, I will point to you, I'll call on you, and then I will repeat the question, and then we'll get an answer for it. Sound good? All right. My number one fan here, this is your fourth or third sort of conversation in the past 2 weeks, and we love that this young playwright is showing up and being present. What's your question, my friend? The question was about, Kate mentioned musicality as a basis of structure for her play. Other folks, any other sort of bases for your structure?
I'll jump back in.
Thank you.
Eat Me is structured so weirdly, and it's sort of the scenes are written on both sides of the page, and there's Chris's sort of consciousness is like he's both with a person, he's like thinking about a chat forum that he's on online, and he's thinking about his best friend and roommate and what she's doing all the time. And then there are people who are like coming into his mind, but he's always going back to the chat forum with people who are obsessed with gourmet food. And I think I was trying to replicate the experience of disordered thinking with that, and with someone who is not fully present with whomever they're with all the time because they are being sort of jerked back to something else.
Nice.
That was good. Yeah.
Anybody, go ahead.
One thing that I am always kind of embarrassed to talk about is how much I love. Okay, there's this video on YouTube that's like 5 minutes long, maybe, with Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park, and they talk about story structure, and it's brilliant because what it basically all they say is like, when you are watching something, and you can basically boil it down to this happens and then this happens and then this happens. It's a bad story because it means that like things are just happening. You know, you can check out actually. Versus this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens, but this happens. You know, that suddenly it's like everything is consequential, and it means that your characters are also activated. It means that they're doing something, they're making active choices, and so that's something that I'm like constantly thinking about, honestly. Yeah. It's so good.
Go ahead, Noah.
I would say it's like structure. I don't know about you guys, but I would say it's the hardest part of writing, just to find the thing that will frame the idea, because you can feel when it doesn't work in this box, and so you try something else. But so for me to start, I will find a play that I feel like my play is in conversation with, and just do that structure. So if it's the first act is 5 scenes, okay, I'll try and do 5 scenes. This scene was like this long, I'll try to make it just to like get me going, because otherwise you'll get bogged down. At least I get bogged down in like, I can't move forward if it doesn't flow. So I like to start, from the beginning, and when you get that structure thing out of the way, then it's about interrogating like the protagonist and how they would move through this world. So like the son in the staircase lives a repetitive life.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, you have to repeat the scenes, and they have to be similar but different. And then finding the thread as you move from each scene, like this is what was brought up, and I want to pull it to the next thing and escalate it. So I think that's I would just say, like, structure is hard, but like what Kate was saying, like, structure, I mean, plays, I feel like, are also pieces of music, and you can see it and feel it, but it's hard to put notes on a feeling sometimes. So you can move through it, but your audience needs some way to box the ephemeral, you know?
Yeah.
Your structure is variations on a theme structure
Yeah.
Yes.
in classical music. Yeah, but you were saying about the play, that's like your guiding play. When I teach, we call that, your play is buddy play. You gotta find a buddy play.
Nice. Anybody want to name some buddy plays? Any? I think I know your buddy play. But does anybody have a buddy play to their play now that you know the concept of buddy play? Any plays you're like, oh yeah, I was inspired by or I was riffing off of?
Yeah, it's not a buddy play in terms of structure, but Full for Love, which is very strange, but I wanted to write some like desert sexy play, and that's sort of what happened.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I'll let you think on it. We'll come out to you all. Any more questions? Coming back here, yes, in the hat. When did you decide that you were a playwright and not just someone who liked to write?
When I wrote and directed my first play in college, and like I never took a playwriting class. I never went to, I didn't enroll in anything. I was like seeing theater in New York at the age of 18, and I did not know theater could be like that. And I did what I do when I love something a lot, is I just try to imitate it. And I'm like, oh, can I make that thing come out of me? And I wasn't like, oh, this is my career, or like I'm gonna get an agent one day. But I was like, it was truly like finding a part of myself that I didn't know existed, and I was like, I have to try to do this again, you know. And the recognition of finding something that you had no clue you had any interest in doing is an incredibly bizarre experience. Like, you know, sometimes on these panels you get asked, like, from your childhood, how could you? And I'm like, there's nothing in my childhood that I could point to that brought me to this beautiful stage where, you know, with my colleagues here. But what's kind of cool about being a playwright is, like, if you get your friends, especially in a place like college, like if the kids want to get together and put on a play and they invite their friends to see it, and like you can actually do it, you know, on your own. Like I mean, not by yourself, but you know, it's not like shooting a movie, or you know, it's available to you, and you can do it with your community, for your community, like kids putting on a play for the grown-ups at holidays and stuff. And the first time I did it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it worked that well. I couldn't believe, I mean, speaking about wonder, I was like in awe of myself.
There we go.
Really feeling myself. And you know, that's the, you know, you're hooked.
You need it.
Yeah.
You need it. I think one of the hardest thing about artists is I'm like, you need some hubris and humility at the same time. But for me, it's like, you know, the artist that I am right now won't compare to the artist I'll be in the future, but I'm dang proud of it. And that takes work and courage. Coming back out here for a question, right here in the center, yes. Great. For the readings that we heard, curious about where you considered the play in process. Really, really great question there. For those of you, it is 10:01. We'll go until 10:10. The reading starts at 10:30, but we'll go until about 10:10. Go ahead, anyone, where the play is in process. It would only be Sebastian, Kate, or Talene, by the way.
Oh, right. You guys are done.
No.
I don't like to throw around the word production ready, but
Hey, listen, tell them. Let them know. 10 grand ready to go.
I mean, you be the judge.
Yeah, mine felt further along than I had thought it would feel. There's like one more rewrite that I want to do that involves cutting a part of a scene and adding something different. But I think it's mostly there, and a lot of my questions are like about how staging and design would how we would figure that out.
Great.
Yeah, I relate to that. I think that the form of Rachel is pretty much what I think it will be. There's still stuff that I think I'll find in the room. I think with this play in particular, so much of it is about the contrast between like the really fast talking and then just like moments of strange silence with the characters being in the room together. And it's really hard to find that in a workshop and in a week in a reading. So something my mentor, who was also my dramaturg, told me a long time ago at the Huntington when I was working there is like, at a certain point, you just need to be in the room, like a rehearsal room, because you can't find everything about a play without those collaborators like we were talking about and like actually getting to work on it for a while.
Yeah.
Can
Go
I ask
ahead.
a follow-up to the three? How much did you rewrite this week?
How
Or
much
was
did
it-
you rewrite?
Or
Yeah.
was it mostly like getting ready for the reading? Yeah.
I rewrote the climax scene, and we didn't end up using it.
Wow.
And
I-
tweaks,
oh,
like
yeah.
tweaks and the little tweaks, but.
I feel like I did a lot of rewriting, but I don't think it was anything that actually felt seismic. It was a lot of like shaping stuff and like reordering.
Yeah, I think for me it ended up being a lot about, we just did a lot of table work, so there wasn't really time to like bring in new pages and be like, now learn about this. So we kept it mostly the same.
Great. Coming out here, any questions? Any burning questions? I'm going to return to my friend in the front. Yes. It's a question about character. Are you writing characters that you want to hear from, or are you writing characters that are telling a story that you think needs to be told?
I think like it's that's interesting. I think that I write characters that I adore, and I never like to write like a clear antagonist. You know, everyone is a hero in their brain, and then like my job is unfortunately to like create these characters that I adore, who have like something that they really want, and just to torture them for the next like 90 minutes. You know.
I love it. Anybody else on character?
Yeah, I just don't know if it's a non-answer, but I don't think I can separate like the characters and the story for me. Like I think that they sort of come at the same time for me in a lot of
Great.
ways.
Great.
I guess I'm thinking of with my play specifically. I will always write about Hawaii, and you cannot write about Hawaii without Hawaiian folks. And so then it's about an exploration of our interior lives and what would move us. So it's like something I think deeply about of what are our emotional touch points. And a lot of my plays feature like older Hawaiian women. I found that it's my more natural voice. Because one, I want to hear from them, but it has a lot to do with losing my grandmother at a fundamental age. So I've been seeking that woman in real life. And so to be able to write about this woman and get to know her, then it if you build it, they will come. So, meeting Auntie Ehu, who's in the play, that was fate. And her being the one to do this and exploring her, like being a collaborator with her about this is who we are, this is what we feel, and just using playwriting as a deep exploration of Hawaiian people.
I love it. All right, final question for me. 3 minutes on the clock. I want to hear from everybody. It's May 4th, 2025. What do you think the theater needs more of right now? What do you think that the theater needs more of right now? What do you urge your fellow panelists to continue to do or write or to dream up and dream of? What do you think the theater needs more of right now to close us out?
Audiences who are game for the adventure and a really open audience who is not coming here for a takeaway or for a, I think it's a quality of attention on the dark side of the room.
Love it. They love that. Anybody else?
I mean, money, like, really. and but also, like, I don't know, like, I think we also need, as theater people, to, like, not saying we're not, but, like, we need to write stories that people want to come to, because I think so often we can get into this trap of being like, please come save the theater, and it's like, no, like, let's make the theater something people actually want to go to, because we have audiences who are there because they feel obligated to go. Like, it's not good for anyone, because the actors feel it, the playwrights feel it. So I think, yeah, just like writing plays that are exciting or surprising or strange or new, that's what we need more of. And I think everyone is doing that, but yeah.
I'm so inspired by something you said earlier, which was you can tell when a playwright already knew the answer to the question that they were asking, and like I think that to me it's like making sure that we're always like exploring. We need to be exploring and being uncomfortable as we're writing it, and it's okay for audiences. I think we've gotten in a place actually post-COVID where everyone was like inside in their blanket on their couch feeling comfy and just watching like Tiger King, you know, and now, which actually does, I think, make people uncomfortable, but I think there's something about like, it's okay to feel uncomfortable, like what you're saying, it feels like that's something that we want to inspire the audiences to do, but it's something that we need to be also doing as playwrights.
Cool.
I think development programs for young playwrights, especially young playwrights who don't have resources, so many of these amazing programs have been slashed, and even like a week like this that South Coast Rep is providing for all of us is like actually such a rarity now, to get like a full week to like really workshop a new play. And it's just, I think it's such a necessary step of like figuring out what a play is, but also, programs like New Dramatists and Page 73 and EST, and like, there's a lot of great places in the city, but not as many as there used to be, and all struggling for funding, I think, to fund young playwrights from all different types of backgrounds and finding their way into playwriting, so that we can actually like have an interesting wide variety of plays to see, and it doesn't feel like we're just like seeing the same family drama over and over again.
Yeah. Noah, anything?
I don't think I have a good answer, because I am still new to theater, so I don't have a strong opinion or like, who am I to give advice about what it is. But to me, I would love to see just, well, it's cool to be a part of like a panel of, cohort of people that are, through our writings, we're gonna start the new movement of something. And so it's important to like know where it is that it came from, use those people, reference those people, steal from them, and then innovate off of that and make it in the here and now, whatever the play ends up being,
Yeah, it's a West African and Dinkra symbol, Sankofa, to look back and to carry the past with you to the future. The present has been spectacular with these playwrights. They are indeed the future. We thank you for joining us, and give them a round of applause. We'll see you at the next play. You're good to go, friends. Thank you.
Thank you, H.
You're so good at it.
I know, seriously.
It's actually the gift of these festivals. Is the playwright.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
No, art friends, there's
I don't like that.
And if you'll head off stage, because before
Thank you
folks
for
come and
reminding
crash
me.
you down there.